Hello, everybody. Shane and Jocelyn Sams here from
Hello.
fliplifestyle.com, making sure that everyone can hear us as we get ready for our member call today. Going to do a quick sound and video check. Sound and video check. If you can see us and hear us, we need a couple confirmations in the chat room. Members only question and answer session today. You can join us inside of the Flip Your Life community forums. We have a chat room set up on the member call post. All right. And Allison apparently can see us because she loves the "Flip Your Life Mate" shirt. Give him a full view of that. That's the Australian brand version of the brand. It says "Mate" on it. Okay. All right. And anyone coming to Flip Your Life Live, you'll be getting a version of that shirt.
It will
Uh,
not say
it will
mate.
not say "Mate," but it will say "Y'all." Okay. That's the American version. All right. So we need like one for every region. Like Flip Your Life, use guys up in New York, and like Flip Your Life, Ewans somewhere else. All right. Hi, everyone. Jackie's here. Allison's here. Allison can see and hear. Tracy says sounds good. So we are solid. All right. Hold on. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of the Flip Your Life community member call. We are going to be doing something a little bit different today. There's going to be a theme for the podcast. We're super excited about this topic and also super excited that not only am I here, not only is Jocelyn here, but all the way from Australia, Kat Jarman is in the house today, and we only have two microphones, so we're going to be passing back and forth.
Been
But
traveling a long way
she
to get
traveled a
here.
long way to get here, but she is literally sitting on our porch by the lake right now to join us on the member call. And we're gonna pass the mic back and forth to her. So she's gonna lead the charge here in a few minutes. We're gonna turn it over, and she's gonna be reading your questions from the Flip Your Life chat room inside of the Flip Your Life members only area. But the reason we're doing a special themed version of the member call is because Jocelyn and I had a massive failure this week. We sat down to do something that we have done every year since we quit our full-time jobs, went full-time online. And that was record our quitiversary episode of our podcast. Every year, we reflect back around this time of the year. It's getting into late September right now when we're recording this podcast. And this year marks the 5-year anniversary from Jocelyn and I leaving our teaching jobs and going full time as online entrepreneurs. We've never looked back. We've been self employed ever since that day. Actually, I figured it out. And yesterday was literally the day that I turned in my 2-week notice for our jobs, and we quit our jobs. So every year we reflect back on that experience. And this year we thought it would be really cool because it was the 5-year mark of us being self-employed to say, hey, what if we could go back in a time machine and we could talk to Shane and Jocelyn 5 years ago, like 2 weeks before we quit our job, and we could let Shane and Jocelyn from 5 years ago ask Shane and Jocelyn from today questions, and then we could answer them and we could get them ahead and we could help them ramp past all the mistakes they were going to make and all the things they went through. And we tried to do this. It was a total disaster,
Well,
like total
not only
disaster.
did we try to do it once, we tried to record it twice. So we recorded some stuff and we're like, no, that's terrible. We're starting it over. So we started it over, recorded some more stuff, and we're like, okay, this is still
It
terrible.
was
Like,
yes
why are we making this so hard? So we decided,
that we would.
there's a
We
big
just got
bug like
attacked by a
attacking us.
horsefly out here on the porch, but we decided to actually open questions up to the Flip Your Life community because we were having so much trouble like figuring out what we would ask ourselves, or even like with all the things we've been through, like how can you like focus that down and give that in bite-sized chunks to somebody in a conversation like that. And we said, let's just let everyone ask us the one thing they would love to know from Shane and Jocelyn now, because most of the people listening are at the beginning of their journey, or they're trying to take that next step that maybe me and Jocelyn have already been through, we've already taken. And so that's what we're going to do today is open up this question to the entire Flip Your Life community, this experience, and say, hey, we went back in a time machine. We're at the beginning of your journey. You get to ask us anything you want to ask us. The biggest question, what we need to overcome to be successful in your business and your life with your online journey, you get to ask us today, and that's what we're going to go with. So,
And so if you're just now joining us, I just want to let everyone know, because I'm seeing several like different types of questions coming in. We're not ignoring your questions. If you're just now joining us, we're doing um, a special member call where we try to answer your questions about what it took for us to get here. How did we quit our jobs 5 years ago? So if you're just now joining us, I just want to let you know that, and that we're not ignoring you.
These are the bigger questions. It's not necessarily like forum type discussions that we would normally talk about in the Flip Your Life community. Like, hey, is this a good opt-in? Or hey, what kind of lead magnet should I use? Lead pages or ClickFunnels? Like, those are great questions, and we do answer a lot of those in the community and here on the member call on the show. But this is more like big fears, the big, huge steps. What's it like to quit your job? How did you make that decision? How did you manage all of the different moving parts, like fears, obstacles, anything that is preventing you from taking your next step? And you would love to just sit down with somebody who's been doing this full time for 5 years or more and say, man, how do I get past this? How do I get past this struggle? Those are the questions that we're looking for in the chat today. So, if you've already posted a question, maybe you want to look at that question and say, hey, this might be a forum post. This is the big one. This is the chance I get to say, hey, big fear, big obstacle, big thing I'm trying to overcome. The one thing stopping me. If I solve this, I can probably fix everything. Those are the questions that we're trying to get to in the chat today. So without further ado, what we're going to do now is we've been gathering some of these questions already in the spreadsheet. Kat has all the questions. And we've got to get Kat on the show because
she came all the way here. I mean,
how many miles was it that we figured out the other day that you actually traveled to be here?
A lot.
It was like
10,000. I don't know.
Kat came 10,000 miles to be here with us today, guys. So listen, this is a big deal, y'all. Big deal. Okay, so Kat's gonna be on the mic, and we got to get the Kentucky Australian accent connection going as well. So all right, so here is our first question. Fresh out of the, Jocelyn and I just stepped out of the time machine. We're technically talking to ourselves 5 years ago, but we're talking to you for the questions. All right, Kat, give us the first one.
Okay, our first question is from Dan.
Hold on, wait a minute. Can you hear Kat, first of all?
Good point.
Because I don't know if I'm getting this through. Talk louder, Kat. Just say la, la, la or something.
La, la, la.
Uh-oh. All right, now I think I got you. Okay, so can we hear Kat? Give us a confirmation that we can hear Kat because my levels looked low. Can you hear Kat?
Can you hear the accent?
Okay, now talk. Talk loud, Kat.
Hi, guys. The mic on? Yes.
The mic is on.
It's on.
Say it again.
Can you guys hear me?
Better. Just yell.
La.
Do it again.
Can't sing.
It looks like it's working.
Stop making me sing.
All right. Hold the mic closer, they said. Hold it right up to your mic. Like you have to touch your
How does that work?
How's that? All right, she just touch your chin with it.
Okay, yes, they said yes.
Okay, there we go.
All
So
right,
you got to literally touch your chin while you're talking.
Can tell I don't do this often.
All right, so Kat is going to loudly read the first question.
Okay, our first question is from Dan. And Dan said, how did you ignore the endless amounts of personal and household to-dos and actually get work done?
All right. So when we were in the beginning, the question is, how did we ignore basically the rest of our life and build a business while working full-time, while raising kids and everything else? And the answer to that question, Dan, is we literally ignored all those household tasks. Like, you can't choose to build an online business without giving up something else. There's so many compartments in our life that we have to look at. We have to pick what's the most important to us. And I think in that moment, in that time 5 years ago, the three most important things to us were probably going to work because we still had to pay the bills with our full-time jobs, raising our children because they were small and they really needed all of our attention, and then focusing every other ounce of energy on the online business so that we could build it and make new choices later. So that meant we didn't clean up. That meant we may not do the dishes every day. That meant I didn't mow the yard every week and my neighbors got mad at me. That was just the way it was because it was the only way to make it happen. You just got to let that stuff go.
Well, and I feel like that was sort of like a convenient answer, just ignore everything and it'll be okay. Well, that was more of Shane's approach probably. Mine was more one of priorities. Like, I'm not going to leave food out on the counter and just ignore it because I don't want mice,
Well, that's not what I mean, but like
So
some things we let go of. Like, you
yes,
couldn't do it all.
and we did a lot of dividing up too. So like maybe Shane would bathe the kids while I cleaned up the kitchen, or maybe one of us would pick up the garage while the other one mowed the yard. Like we just sort of divided things up. We decided what was really important. Sometimes that's hard to do because a lot of times we all want to think everything's really important, but everything is not always really important. So you just have to ask yourself, okay, is this really something that has to be done right now, or can this wait?
What was something like that we did give up more of, though? Like, I can distinctly remember, especially during football season, not mowing the grass, but like once a month when we started doing all this, and the yard would get crazy, and we'd be like, okay, we finally have to go mow the yard. But like where I was doing it like every week, but by not mowing the yard, it gave me 3 hours of work that month I could do on something. Like, that was one thing. Like, what's one thing you remember totally like, I can't focus on that right now?
I remember folding laundry on the dining room table, and it would stay there most of the time. Like, it was folded, it was clean. It's just I never put it away because, first of all, we never used the dining room table because we were never home. But I just remember that being there. And like when we would take videos of our kids, I would always be like, oh, please don't post that on Facebook or anything, because there's just stuff everywhere, because I just hadn't had time to put it away.
I think we also let go of things outside of the house too. Our social life, pretty much for those 2 years, or that first 2 years of building the business, was non-existent. I mean, it was go to work, come home, take care of children, take care of each other. And we didn't have friends, and we didn't watch TV, and we didn't play games, and we didn't have date nights. And we just didn't do that for the first year and a half, because you can't get what you want later without giving up something now. You just can't do it. You just have to decide what to give up. We actually took Kat and her husband and their little girl are here. We took them on what we call the house tour, the Flip Your Life house tour yesterday. And we went and showed them our old house that we had when we first started our online business, when we were school teachers. Nice house, had a pool, all of that. We sold it, and then we drove her across town to another neighborhood where it was not as nice a neighborhood. It was not as nice a house. And we gave that up. We gave that first thing up. But now you come here, and we have twice as much house and 10 times as much land, because we gave up stuff in. So, the long and short is, you just got to give up what you think you can. Our priorities are different than yours, and you can't worry about it. You can't say, oh, the laundry's on the table, I didn't put it up. Yeah, but I'm building an online business that's going to allow me to pay somebody to fold my laundry later, right? That's kind of where we go with this.
And Carrie, she says in the chat, our date nights are business planning dinners. Absolutely. We did a lot of that. Just when we would have a few minutes to ourselves, we would say, okay, what do we need to do to get to this next place? Like, we didn't just say, oh, well, this is hard, we're going to stop doing it. No, we said, okay, we're going to make this work. We're going to find a way to make this work. What can we do to make it work?
And this is kind of, I feel to kind of close this question up, like, I feel behind Dan's question is another thing. It's like, it's not necessarily how can you handle the tasks. It's how can you not feel guilty about not putting the stuff up? How can you not feel bad about not mowing the grass and, you're the only person in your neighborhood doing it? That's the mindset shift of future, not now. The future weighs more now. If it's a teeter-totter, that's a good Southern way to say seesaw. I don't know where you are at, but it says if you're on one side, the future outweighs the other side. You've got to get over that and just move forward and say, it's okay because it's my choice, not society's choice. Society is telling me everything in my life, what they want it to look like. But I know if I make it look like this, my future for my family looks way better than what society can give me. And you just let it go and move forward.
And this is a perfect place for this quote. I've been wanting to use this quote forever because I heard it not too long ago. It's a Tim Ferriss quote, and it says, a person's success in life can usually be measured by the number of uncomfortable conversations he or she is willing to have. And I think that's super relevant here, because people are going to think it's weird. Like, this is not normal what we do.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to have those uncomfortable conversations sometimes, then there's a beautiful rainbow on the other side of it usually.
Yeah. Good question. All right, Dan. All right, let's see. Pass that back over.
Okay.
All right, remember, to the chin.
The chin.
Got to get it on the chin.
Okay.
You got your powerful Australian voice.
Sure. Could I just say that you guys, I didn't understand the level of hustle and what lengths you were willing to go to make this work until I saw those homes yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And the one that you were in was amazing. You said like it was the American dream.
Yeah.
And then the one you moved to, your whole world would have said to you, what are you guys doing? Are you guys bankrupt? Are you okay? Do
Which
you
they
do you
did.
need money? And so like you are willing to do whatever it takes. And it doesn't matter how many uncomfortable conversations you had to have. You just made it happen. So that was cool.
And that's the only way you get to where we are
Exactly.
and where you are and where everybody wants to be. So awesome stuff.
Anyway, I'll be quiet now and read the next question. Our next question is from Lauren. Lauren said, how do you just go for it and know that there's not a steady paycheck coming in anymore? It's so much easier in some regards to keep this as a side hustle while getting guaranteed pay from a company. How did you know it was time to quit?
This is a good question. And many people have asked this question. I see Mark and Allison and other people. You know, when anyone ever asks us, how do I know if I should quit my job? The first thing we say is, only you can truly know that. And that sounds like such a cop-out, but it's kind of like getting married. It's kind of like, you know, choosing the college you go to. It's like having kids. No matter how many numbers you put in the formula in the spreadsheet, no matter how many times you reevaluate all of the things that could go right, could go wrong, you will never come up with that answer like, yeah, it's totally time to have a kid. Yeah, this is the perfect time to get married. You're always just kind of going to be in the ballpark. And for us, I remember distinctly having this conversation with Jocelyn because Jocelyn was freaking out when I even brought it up that it was time to quit our jobs, because we tried to put everything into the perfect formula. And it was more like, let's wait a year. Let's wait a year. And that conversation kept being, let's wait a year. Let's wait a year. And when I threw down and said, we should do this because if we're doing this part-time, what in the world could we do if we were all in and going at it full-time? And that was kind of the tipping point for us that made us say, let's try it. And the next thing we did was kind of just say, what's the worst thing that could happen? Like, I have to go get another job because it doesn't work. I mean, we had all both had multiple jobs in the past. So that was kind of the process that we went through. And I'll be honest with you, no matter how much money we make or have made, like, it never gets comfortable to look at the next month and say, no one's going to bail you out. No one's going to be there to save you, and you're not going to get a steady paycheck. It's always that drive of, we have to make it on our own. We've got to do it together. You know,
it was really hard for me when Shane came up with this idea, as happens most of the time. I was not excited about it. Like, I already had it in my mind. We were going to finish out the school year. Like, this is not what we're going to do. We're not going to do it right now. And he basically was like, well, I'm going to do it whether you do or not. And I'm like, okay, well,
probably not the best way to negotiate with your spouse.
Probably isn't going to work out real well. I mean, can you just imagine if he was like hanging out by himself every single day? Like, this just wasn't going to work. And so, you know, I finally just said, okay, well, all right, that's fine. So as I do many times, I turn it back on him and say, look, if this doesn't work out, this is all your fault because, you know, you're the one who wanted to do it. Yeah. But I mean, we were really in it together and we just decided we're going to make it work. Like, once we leave our job, there's no choice. There's no turning back.
Yeah. And like, it's kind of like the comfortable decision versus the uncomfortable decision. Like Lauren wrote in her question, it's easier. Uh-oh. Did we just lose connection? I'm still disconnected. Guys, let us know in the chat real quick if you can hear us, and we'll pick back up because I am disconnected on Drive right now. Is the still there?
Okay, good. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
All right. So Lauren says in her question, it's easier to keep it a side hustle, and kind of unintuitively, that's your answer, because the comfortable thing, the safe thing, it's kind of like you're compromising because, well, I could go to the next level or I could just stay here where it's nice and it feels good.
You're not as loud as me, somebody said.
That's usually where we look at something and we say, hey, that's the right decision because it's uncomfortable, because it looks a little scary. We could stay here, we could play it safe, but that's never going to take you to the next level. I heard a great quote the other day that said, if you're not getting what you want, it's because you don't want it bad enough or you negotiated the price you had to pay to get it. And that's kind of the decision there. So normally now, Jocelyn and I look for the scary thing, and that's probably where we need to go to create the right opportunities, even if it's a loss in the short term. One thing I can really think of recently is Flip Your Life Live in Nashville. We're putting on this huge live event for over 100 entrepreneurs. We have people
In 6 days.
in,
Woo!
in 6 days from the recording of this, and we have people. We have
Actually, 5 days, I think.
people from 5 different countries, 30 different states. And when we wrote down on paper what we wanted to do, I was absolutely terrified. For a change, Jocelyn was actually the one jumping off of the cliff here. And definitely a couple of times I feel like we pulled the chute this year and it wasn't going to open. And because it's so expensive, it's so many things, it's so logistical, it takes over your whole life when you're doing an event like
It's
this.
a big opportunity cost. Like we had
Yes.
to decide, are we going to work on this
Or
or
we're
are
going
we
to do the
going
live
to
event.
work on something else?
Yeah. So but it was the right decision now because on the backside and at this event, there's so many opportunities opening up. So, that's kind of what we look for is the scary thing and the safe thing. The safe thing usually keeps you where you are, and that's okay. But if you're not doing anything to push to the next level, the problem is that safe, nice thing that feels comfortable now, if you don't grow it, it's going to start dying off. You can't just sit and stay the same. Pooled water goes stagnant. If you got a little puddle of water, it's eventually going to get mosquitoes and dirt and mud. And if you don't add fresh water to it, something's going to happen. So that's what you look for. Look for the uncomfortable, look for the scary, and put yourself in a position where you have no chance but to succeed. Because if you've got a chance to succeed or stay the same, you'll always stay the same. So that's how we make big decisions. And don't wait until someone else forces your hand and makes the decision for you, because they will. And the person who asked this question, I think you know what I mean. So, give yourself a chance to make your own opportunities happen. All right, great question.
Okay, our next question is from Carla. Carla says, with everything being so new to you at the time, how did you determine what goals to set along the way? Did you find that your goals were too conservative, too crazy, or focused on the wrong things?
All right. So we did this. I remember distinctly the moment we did this. I didn't know what we were doing at the time. I would learn later from a coach that we had hired and a mentor of ours what we were actually doing at the time. But Jocelyn and I, when we first made money online and we realized this was real, this was possible, if we threw everything into it, we could probably quit our jobs and take full control of our life, give our family the future that we always dreamed of, or maybe even a future that we couldn't imagine at the time. We decided to drop the kids off over at the grandparents' house, and we went to a Mexican restaurant to plan what we wanted our life to look like, to set goals, to dream bold dreams. That was actually what we tried to name Flip Lifestyle in the beginning was Bold Dreams. I remember that we tried to buy bolddreams.com.
That was all Shane, as you can
Bold
imagine.
dreams, baby. Let's just think big. And but anyway, we were thinking about all these things, what we were going to do and how we were going to grow the business. And the question that we actually asked ourselves is, what do we want? What do we really want our life to look like? And we just closed our eyes and said, we want to get up every day and start the day with our kids. We want to take our kids to school. We don't want to be apart all day long. And we want to take trips. Well, how much would those trips cost? Well, we want to take our kids to Disneyland. We want to, 3 months later, we want to go to the beach. We want to do that. Where do we want to live? Well, for us at the time, we had just downsized into this smaller house. We kind of wanted to get back into the kind of home we were in, but have it paid off. So that was kind of a goal. And we just wrote down exactly what our life would look like and what that would cost a month. And that became the first goal that we set to do that. But if I could go back in time and tell our 5 year ago Shane and Jocelyn selves, hey, this is where you're actually going to end up, I don't think that we could have even comprehended what was actually possible at the time. So our goals
No,
were way too small.
Our goals were very conservative because we really just didn't know anything beyond that. Like we just wanted to pay off our property, we wanted to travel a little bit, we wanted to spend more time together. And like all of those are fine goals. There's nothing wrong with any of those, but we just needed to dream a lot bigger. And I think that we know that now. And even now, like 5 years later, I think it's hard for us because we come from just very middle class backgrounds, like,
Truly humble beginnings.
and
both
I
of
don't
us.
really know what else is out there. Like, this is pretty cool. Like, I'm pretty happy with my life right now. And so sometimes I struggle to say, okay, well, what else can I aim for? Like, I'm not finished. I'm a very ambitious person. I want to continue to take steps to grow the business and just continue to work toward bigger things. But I'm even having a hard time right now wrapping my head around what those bigger things are. And I think that when people start out, that is typical. Like you have one thing on your mind. And for us, it was just having that time freedom.
Yeah.
And once you get beyond that, it's like, okay, well, we have time freedom now. So what do we want next?
And I would actually probably give our 5-year-ago self that exact advice. Go get the dream that you have in front of you right now. Don't worry about your future dreams or what's going to be possible, because it is a little mind-boggling. I've probably got 100 books in my closet in here that
At least
that we flipped through and read through and used in the last year or in the last 5 years. But in the last month alone, we have had decisions that we've had to make in our business come up that I've never studied, I've never heard, I could never possibly have comprehended without the last 5 years experience. So I wouldn't go back and say, dream bigger, dream bolder. Here's what's actually possible. I would say, what do you want next? Go get that. And then when you get there, say it again. What do I want next? And then go get that. That's the actual path that we followed. And that's really the path that I've seen every single successful entrepreneur that we've worked with follow is, yeah, we all want big things and we can dream as big as we want. We can all watch Shark Tank and want to be sitting there like beside Mark Cuban bidding on businesses or something. But like, what do you really want next to make your life better? You can go get that like right now. You can see it, you can feel it, you can touch it, and you can achieve it if you just do it. And then you can build on top of it as you go.
But I would just throw into, like, don't be too conservative. I think the best types of goals are the ones that make you a little bit uncomfortable, but you can see yourself attaining. Like if I say to myself, okay, I'm going to make $1 billion next year, that goal is probably not attainable. I'm not saying it's not, but it's probably not going to happen. But if I say something like I want to take 4 trips next year to wherever, like that's something that's a little bit uncomfortable for me, but I can see it happening. Like it is possible.
Yeah.
So I would say make goals that are somewhat uncomfortable, but not way unattainable.
You could also do it like just a simple rule, kind of like, hey, I want to achieve this, and then bump it up 20%. Now you're uncomfortable. Like if you look at it and you're like, man, if I could just make $10,000 a month online, that would give me 40-50% more than I make now at my full-time job. I'd be working for myself, total time freedom. Bump it up 20%. Just reach a little farther than you think you can, but don't don't look at other people too. Like don't worry about, don't do what me and Jocelyn do. Do what we did. If you're where we were 5 years ago, then you should be doing what we did. If you're where we were 1 year ago, then you should do what we did, right? And kind of focus on your own journey and don't get caught up in letting other people define your goals is another trap that we have fallen into probably in the last year that we shouldn't have, taking some bad advice on some opportunities that we had. And, I really struggle with letting other people now into our goal setting mindset because we don't want to be like everybody else. We want to be like Shane and Jocelyn and what we want. So that's what we're going for, is what's next for us, not what's next for what the guru expert community says should be next for us. So hope that made sense. That was clear. Good question, Carla.
Our next question is from Joanne. Joanne said, what would you do different when starting from square one to bring in the dollars quicker?
What would we do different from square one to bring in money faster?
I would say, first of all, I would definitely email people more often. When I first started out, I was like really scared of running people off because I had a brand new list, and people were starting to get on it. I had maybe like a couple hundred people at first. And I was like, oh no, I can't email them more than once a week because they definitely won't buy anything. And if I would have known then what I know now, I would have emailed them every single day.
That's exactly right. I'm glad I'm rubbing off on you, on my madness with the emailing. 'Cause we
Yeah, I
email
don't
people
know.
a lot. Yeah. I tell you what I would probably do for sure is not try to build anything that was passive income. I would do what doesn't scale more. Like, I feel like we wasted a lot of time in the total automation and trying to come up with this, I can sell this thing forever, whatever. Because when you open the door to spend time with people, it opens an opportunity to make more money faster. And this goes back to doing what we did, don't do what we do kind of thing. Like, all the experts that teach are a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years into their journey, and they've figured out how to make some passive income, right? But what you don't see, that's the tip of the iceberg. You don't see all that work they did laying the groundwork in those first 2 or 3 years that actually made them have enough money to build these passive income systems and all the content they created that they later packaged up and turned into the thing. Everyone makes it look like, well, we made one course and now it's $1 million a month and it's passive and I just lay around all day. That's not anywhere near how it goes. Even some of the things we're doing right now, we're going back through 5 years of content and, literally hundreds of hours of recordings and turning them into YouTube videos, turning them into blog posts and doing things like this that wouldn't even exist if we hadn't done more of what scales. So that's what I would say is don't try to be so passive in the beginning. Like, if you can find 20 people that will buy your product, like, figure out how you can work with them one-on-one on a monthly basis and do what doesn't scale to get more money faster. Now, I want to follow this up with another thing too. It's not about making money faster, because you need to build a strong foundation that will be there a year or two from now. There's a lot of ways to make money fast.
I can walk into my house and sell something on Facebook in
Right.
my house in about 10 minutes.
and make money fast. But then that thing's gone, and what do you do next for money, right? Or, I can go and maybe I've got 1,000 people on my email list. I can go sell affiliate products for somebody. I can go to ClickBank and grab an ebook. I can go whatever. But then you just poison your list with everybody else's products and you never actually build a business for yourself. So we always think like we're the glacier, not the forest fire. I don't want to just, woof, that was awesome, but it's gone. We want to be here forever, long term, moving forward, unstoppable force. So really think about how you can build a strong foundation, and don't always make it to be about money quick, quitting your job fast. If it takes you 5 years to quit your job, but you work for yourself for 25, that's a heck of a fair trade. That's a good trade. So don't try to make it so fast. Try to make it where it lasts, and you're going to be much better off. Did that rhyme? That totally rhymed. I just dropped a rhyme on y'all. Spitting rhymes. Where's Treasure Redmond? Treasure is our rapper inside the community. So I'm just throwing down some raps for everybody today. Sitting on my back porch.
Please stop. Okay.
Okay, I'm outnumbered here today. Y'all. So I gotta calm down.
Our next question is from Leah. Leah said, what mindset did you each need to have to make the transition in the beginning? What mindset did you need right after you quit? And what did you do immediately to develop systems and processes to keep money rolling in and increasing over time?
I would say on that one, mostly a lot of consistent effort. I think a lot of times people think, okay, well, if I make 10 blog posts and I email people every day, then, I'm going to make millions of dollars. Well, that's not necessarily true. Like, we just had consistent effort all the time. Did we always make the right decisions? No. And a lot of times I would say in hindsight, we made the wrong decisions. But it's like you can say the quote. I know you want to. No, I'm talking about the president one.
Oh, yes. I get Teddy Roosevelt. Okay. So I got another quote, though. All right. Because you brought.
Oh, boy.
I got a lot of quotes. Like, I love Jocelyn saying something so true right now is like consistency beats proficiency every time. People think you've got to hit the home run. You got to get it right. perfect list, perfect email funnel. You only do one. You got one ad that sells one product forever and you're going to retire. But all those people fade away. You know, the people that stick around are the consistent people. And whenever you're making these decisions, like this was a mindset shift we had to make because the world makes us scared to make decisions. Like, don't jeopardize what you've got now. But Teddy Roosevelt, the greatest president for quotes, and maybe of all time anyway, said, in any situation, the right thing to do is the right thing. But the next best thing to do is the wrong thing. And the worst possible thing you can ever do is nothing. And I actually taught a lesson about Teddy Roosevelt while we were building our business and read this and saw this quote while I was making a lesson plan like 5 or 6 years ago. And it just, that was the mindset shift that I needed to be like, hey, the only thing that matters is doing stuff consistently. If you're the person who consistently does more than the other person and you're right 51% of the time, you will always win in life. But the person who does nothing will eventually hit something and fail. So just keep doing stuff, be consistent, and just try.
And I think the thing about us is we're not people who give up easily. Like if we have something on our mind, we just decide like this is going to happen. And if I would have a bad day, which happened, then Shane would be like, hey, stop being a whiny baby and let's move on, you know?
Did I say it that harshly?
Probably
did.
Some days, yes.
I'm hardcore, guys.
And
no sugar in
then,
the house, no sugar in the business.
You know, if he was having a bad day, I'll be like, okay, you know, suck it up, Buttercup. I say that a lot.
She does actually say Buttercup to me. Suck it up.
And, you know, we got to move forward. Like we have to keep going. So I think that this question is actually relevant to something that Jessica put into the chat here. She says, I know what I want, but I sabotage myself. I have all these ideas and plans, but when it comes to time to take action, I talk myself out of it. So the thing about that, and the same thing kind of what Leah's saying, is that you just have to make a decision. Like you have to make that confident decision that this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to make it work. Like until you really do that, until you really decide to press the button or to pull the parachute, then it's probably not ever going to happen.
That thing that you're talking about too, with her comment there is called, it's like the equilibrium paradox. When people are successful, it freaks them out because humans don't like change, even if the change is good. And they try to go back to the last place that they were. So that's that fear of success. And I love Leah's second part of this question where she says, what mindset did you have right after you quit? I can remember this shift, and this was probably one of the most important shifts we made back in 2013. So many people after we quit kept coming up to us and asking us if we were okay. Are you okay? Are you okay? It was almost like they were waiting for us to fall on our face. I remember Jocelyn's grandfather one time walked up to me and shook my hand after we went and saw him. And I looked down and he had put like a $20 bill in my hand. And he was like, now I know y'all ain't working and you need some gas money to get home. He thought we were unemployed. Like no one could see like what was happening. They were all just waiting for the truth to come out that everything was a failure. And then it started creeping into my mind, like, well, what if we do fail? How embarrassing is that going to be? Everyone's going to be right. Grandparents right. Society's right. It's all right. This was wrong way to go. And I can remember just a light switch happening right before we went into January of like 2014. And we had just scheduled to go to our first live event and meet with some coaching and do some stuff like that. The mindset that shift that happened was, I don't care if we fail. Like, it doesn't matter because we're the ones who actually tried. And if it does, like, what if it does work? Everyone kept saying, like, what if you fail? And I'm like, what if we don't? Like, it's going to be amazing. like, what if we don't fail? And it was like, at that point, I didn't care anymore if we did have to go back to teaching. I didn't care if we had to get another job. I didn't care if I was folding sweaters in a department store. At least we put forth the effort. And that's another awesome Teddy Roosevelt quote. He's got this amazing passage called The Man in the Arena. And he talks about how society doesn't matter, the critic doesn't matter, and the person who's watching the fight in the arena doesn't matter. All that matters is the person in the arena. It doesn't matter if you win, doesn't matter if you lose. It's the blood, sweat, and tears and dust that happen in the arena that matters. And that's kind of where we got to a point was like, who cares if we did have to go back to 9 to 5s? That's 3 good years we had.
We played the what's the worst thing that could happen game a lot. So I think a lot of times when we start thinking about something that's so radical and so different from what the rest of the world thinks is normal, I think sometimes we do sabotage ourselves and say, well, you know, if all of these other people do it, I mean, this has to be the right way, right? And then you start thinking about it and you're like, no, it's not. And so we would ask ourselves, okay, if we do this and we sell nothing, which, I obviously wouldn't have quit my job if we weren't selling anything. But if the sales stopped tomorrow, if our website crashed, like what is the worst thing that could happen?
And those two things have happened during our journey. There was a couple month period at the very beginning, sales stopped completely. And we were like, oh no, what have we done? We were in an Airbnb. What was it, a condo or an Airbnb? We were in a condo, waking up, dressing our kids, and putting them in a stroller to go to Disneyland one day.
Or in a pram for our Australian friends.
Yes, there you go. And our website crashed and it was replaced by a terrorist propaganda website. And everything that we had went down for like 2 weeks. It was madness. So these things did happen. And at the end of the day, if you ain't dead, you just fight back. So keep going and don't worry about it. So that was the big mindset shift for me, was who cares if we fail? Like if I failed today and we lost all of this business wise and we had to go do something else, man, what a ride. Like those 5 years were great.
Yeah,
so,
I
man, what does it
definitely,
matter?
I would have no regrets. I would rather fail at trying something that I really wanted than to just continue going on day to day wondering if it was ever possible.
Yeah. And Leah asked the final part of this question is like, what were the 5 things that did keep you going to keep you increasing? Basically, if you can answer these, if you just figure out these 3 things, what can I do every day to get a new customer? What can I do to keep my current customers happy? And how can I promote stuff I've already made? If you can just figure that out for yourself and you do that every day, more than likely you will keep your business moving forward and increasing, because usually every business has that one thing that's really making the money. And if you can keep supporting that, you're going to be all right. So figure that thing out first and then do that every day and don't get distracted, and you'll keep increasing over time.
Okay, favorite question. Desiree said, what is the way that you wish or fantasize about how you really quit your job? Like, do you wish that you could have told them how horrible they were for keeping you from your kids, and that you're going to do everything in your power to make sure that no one is a teacher again, and say, I quit, and throw glitter at them as you walk out?
I'm not carrying no glitter around. Some strong man right here. You know what I'm saying? I actually, one, I would never say don't be a teacher, because I think it's one of the most important jobs that anyone could ever do. And we did not hate teaching. We had a problem with who was in charge of us as teachers. Okay.
Well, and I would use the word we lightly, because I actually loved
Jocelyn,
my job in my
yes.
school.
Jocelyn loved her job, but my administration was a problem. So I wouldn't tell anybody not to be a teacher. But, I don't think vengeance and stick it to you-ness is a part of like our mentality, because I don't know if I would have done anything different. Like the shock on their face was enough for me to be like, yeah, this was totally the right thing to do, because they were just
like teachers
stunned,
don't just quit in late September.
Yeah.
I mean, school starts here in August.
Yeah.
So you don't just quit in September. It was like very unusual. People didn't even know what to think about it. They were just like shocked.
Yeah. And the reason the shock was so satisfying, it was kind of already satisfying the way we had it, is because it wasn't shock that we were giving up our money. It was shock that we didn't care about their power over us. We didn't care that they were our employer and that they didn't take care of us. We were bucking that with them. And that's kind of where the shock came from. And even the people around us, it was so funny. I was talking to a teacher like the next year, and he told me, man, people view you like that guy that broke out of Shawshank Redemption at the end, and he was standing there in the rain, like free. Like that's how like the other teachers had kind of like viewed us, like Andy Dufresne in the water with freedom and going to Mexico. Right. And that was kind of like the system that we were bucking. It wasn't just, oh, good for you. It was almost, how dare you? Mean you are making enough money to pay your bills, buy your own insurance, and have a retirement plan? How dare you like create this new way? So it was all, and it was almost like they didn't want us to tell the other teachers it was possible. It was like, well, let's just keep this on the down low, and we're gonna hire somebody else, and you just kind of roll off into the night and do that stuff. So I don't know if I would have like thrown it in their face anymore, but like our success is enough vengeance in its own right that they just get to see what happened. And you know, they have to deal with their own doubts that way. So
Yeah, I don't know that I would have changed anything.
and maybe that we would have actually resigned on the same day, because that was terrifying when you resigned and then I went and my principal wasn't there. And then Jocelyn, I like, did you do it yet? And she goes, oh yeah, I've already done it. And I'm like, oh no. Because we were afraid that like word was going to get out or something like that. So I don't know, but I wouldn't have done anything different.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, like, as far as different, I don't know about like actually leaving our jobs, but I don't know. I was a little bit scared at the time because, you know, I didn't want people to like know too much about what I was doing, and I don't know. We were
Just
just
all those fears you have when you're quitting. That's probably would have been
yeah,
different.
and then you know, also people. It came from pretty much out of nowhere because nobody knew that we were doing this on the side, pretty much, except for like a few close friends. So I think one thing is just I don't really know how I would change it, but I think a lot of times people see our success and they think that we had some type of magic wand or easy button because, you know, it did come so suddenly for a lot of people.
But it was
So,
over a year working on it for us. You know,
yeah,
and
so
they
I
didn't get to
wish
see
that there were a better way to portray that to others to let people know that, hey, you know, we didn't wave our magic wand and make all this happen. We didn't just fall into a big vat of money. Like, it's just, it was a result of a lot of hard work.
And also too, like our MO has never been to prove anyone wrong. It's to improve our life going forward. So, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It would have been awesome to throw glitter on people going out the door, but you know, that's just not what we did.
No, we were just so happy to be doing our own thing.
We quit on the like teachers have to go to professional development for like 8-hour days, and it's so boring, and it's just boring PowerPoints and someone droning on and on and on. And we purposefully quit on one of those, and yet we were just so happy to be sitting in our robes drinking tea and coffee that nothing else really mattered.
But I
So,
want to say, and I've said this before, that like for me, it was a lot harder decision to leave my job
For sure.
because I had come. So my very first school as a librarian was not a very good school. The behavior of the kids was really bad. Their home lives were really bad. Like it was just not a good situation. Then the school that I was working at when we left our jobs, I loved that school. Like the people were amazing. The students were amazing. Like it was so good. And so I was very conflicted when we left because I was like, I know that if I leave and this doesn't work out, I will never have this situation again.
and also too, that's a lot of you are listening to this right now saying, I've got it pretty good at work. I'm not miserable. My boss isn't mean to me. I make good money, but it's kind of like good is the enemy of great. Like looking back now, if you compare greatness, what we have now, to how good, very, very, really good you had it, like that's almost a harder transition to make than this sucks. I'm doing anything else. I'm going another direction. That's almost easier. It's almost easier when you have a catalyst than when you have a dream. And, you know, some of you might be wrestling with that today. So, you know, either way, go for it because great's always going to win. I hand her that mic, Jocelyn. What are we on? Me on Bonnie?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, our next question is from Bonnie. Bonnie said, what has the transition from a full-time job cost you that you never anticipated? So physical, social, emotional, family, relationships, perspective, etc. How did you, oh my gosh, giant fly.
We're getting attacked by flies out here while we're recording this.
How did you cope with those consequences, or how are you accepting that?
The two from that list that stood out to me, one is perspective. You know, one of the things that we get to do that's really unique is we have this amazing piece of property that has a 10-acre lake behind our house, and we have jet skis tied off right behind us. And the kids love to tube. They just love to tube. We do it almost every single night, and that's just not something that everybody gets to do. And every time I get on that jet ski and every time I'm pulling them around, I'm seeing them smiling and laughing and we're having a blast. I always look back and say, man, this is worth it. This is worth earning. This is worth fighting for. Like, this is worth keeping. Because if you don't work to keep it, it goes away. Like, you don't just make it. Nobody ever just makes it forever. Right. And like knowing what's possible perspective wise, it would be very, very hard to settle for something less now. I think I would be content and be happy anywhere we were as long as I had Jocelyn, Isaac, and Anna, period. As long as we were warm, dry, and fed, that's the baseline. That's cool. But, you know, having perspective of what's possible, doing some world traveling, doing some things that are out there, guys, it's worth it. Like, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. And if anyone says, well, that's materialistic, well, it is worth it to go earn more opportunities. So that perspective, you know, I didn't even know stuff like this existed before. So some of the opportunities that we get now, that would be really hard to go back to. So giving up that, I don't know if innocence is the right word, like, but just not knowing that, right? Like, that's a perspective that would, it kind of cost me that, because now I know what's out there, right? It's like, you don't know what you don't know. Well, now we know it, so we got to go get it. And then, you know, definitely relationships. We've had a struggle with different kinds of relationships as people who don't understand what we do or have done. Those old relationships, you know, just various people. We've had some definite things, and you just got to cope with it. You just deal with it. I mean, it is what it is, and you just have to make choices, right, wrong, or indifferent about stuff like that.
I think probably one thing that I didn't anticipate is that all of this is cyclical. And so what I mean by that is that the problems and the struggles that we had at the beginning, they're now coming up again. They're coming up in different ways, but like the mindset struggles are still there. It's a different type of mindset struggle, meaning that, you know, we were at point A, now we're at point B, but to get to point C, we have to go through all of those things again.
Yeah.
And that has been a little bit challenging for us, because I feel like from point A to point B, like we were able to overcome those fairly quickly, I think. And this time it's a little bit harder for, I think, just different reasons. So that,
and what you lost there too, kind of, was that predictability of the 9 to 5, and it's changed to this cyclical. You go up, you go down, you go up, you don't, because, you know, most people, what does society tell you? You get the job for 30 years and you retire, and we'll just, as long as you do your job and you show up and you punch your clock every day, and then you go home and go to sleep and wake up and do it again, you get that predictability. So that's kind of like what you lost, right? And you traded it for that cyclical nature of entrepreneurship.
and I think another thing that we are just having to deal with that we might not have anticipated before is that things are not perfect now. Like, I think people want to look at our lives and say, well, you know, you have A, B, C, and D. Like, your life is definitely perfect now. You have nothing else to accomplish. And
you've got it made.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the statement.
And okay, so just this morning, I can give you an example that my daughter, they had something special at school today, and she was crying because Shane and I couldn't come because we had this call today. We already had it scheduled. So, you know, a lot of people might look at that and say, well, you know, Flip Lifestyle, you're supposed to be putting your family first. Well, here's the thing. I already had a call scheduled for work
a month ago before we knew about that thing.
And, you know, sometimes we do have to disappoint our children. Like, that's part of life now. Like, we still have to do that sometimes, just like everyone else does. Things, we get mad at each other a lot. And the funny thing is, I would say maybe even more so now than we did in the beginning. And we talk about this sometimes. I think it's because in the beginning, the stakes were so high. Like, if we didn't work it out and didn't make it succeed, then we would have to go back to our jobs. Well, now I think we're mostly past that. But because it's not such high stakes anymore, I think that, you know, Shane would do things a lot differently than I do them. And I do things a lot differently than he does them. It doesn't make either one of us wrong. But sometimes we fight over the most ridiculous things, because I feel like we invent problems because we don't have a lot of problems, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And this is a really good example. Like, losing things is not a bad thing. Some of those relationships, now that I kind of see it on the other end, I'm kind of glad I lost them, right? I'm not always glad, but like, even like, I think Jocelyn and I, what we lost, we talked about this just the other night. You know, when we worked full-time jobs, we would come home and we could vent to each other about other things. But now we are always home. We are always together. And the things we're venting on are the things that are frustrating us both. So it's like, there is no,
and like, we've lost our person. Well, I have Kat on Voxer.
Jocelyn has Kat. I'm still looking for somebody. So if anybody out there needs a buddy,
if anybody wants to listen
buddy, right?
to how terrible I am, then
yeah,
you know,
right.
I'll
talk to you about it. You're amazing. You're not terrible. Don't ever say that.
I'm just kidding.
But like that. But we've lost. Jocelyn always says we've lost our heat shield, because we've kind of burned it off of each other. Because now we are, you know, we view ourselves as high achieving world changers, and we can't step back from that. But when you put two high achieving world changers in the house together, there's going to be some explosive conversations. That's just the way it is. And so I feel like we lost the old way, the old dynamic of our relationship, and we replaced it with this new thing, right?
Which in most times is really good.
Yeah.
Like I always say, you guys have probably heard me say it before. Like usually I think we bring out the best in each other and occasionally the worst. And it is occasional. And all of the things that we fight about, they're definitely first world problems, but we do still have fights. I mean, at
Yeah.
least weekly, sometimes daily.
Here the moral of this question really is everybody wants it all. Well, I want to keep all my relationships the same. I want all my friends to be the same. I want the kids my kids play with to be the same.
I want to
my
have a
marriage to be
business,
the
but I
same.
want to have stability.
I want to have the business. Yeah, I want the stability. I want to succeed and get to a certain level, but I want everything else to be perfect and stay the same. And guys,
it's not possible.
It's not possible. Everything's going to change when you become successful. And you're going to have problems when you're successful that you can't imagine. And and me and Jocelyn cannot possibly explain to you until you go through them. And that's just the way it is. But like we said, it's amazing.
I wouldn't
It's worth
change it.
Right,
I wouldn't
yeah.
change a thing. Like even some of the day-to-day struggles that we have with each other, like I wouldn't change it because I think on 5 years later, I think we're better people because of it.
Without question. Yeah. Yeah.
The next question is from Melanie. Melanie said, "You know what I would love to hear from 2013 S&J, where they would hope to be in 5 years and how that compares with now. I think as I set goals, it's helpful to hear others' reflections of what they were and weren't able to accomplish and what they couldn't even imagine."
I would say that our goals, when we sat down and made our goals, are probably 20% of what our goals are now, or probably we would have set if I could take all this knowledge and implant it in myself at that Mexican restaurant where we set our first big goals, it's easily 20% of what I know we can accomplish, or I know that we have accomplished already. So that's kind of where I am with that. Like, it's just, I don't even think that you can comprehend your goals in the beginning because you don't really know what you want. You only know what you kind of like don't want, right? So I knew what I didn't want. When we were building our business in the beginning in 2013, we were about to quit our jobs. I knew I didn't want to work for somebody else. I knew that I didn't want to be in a situation where I couldn't be there for my kids. I knew that I didn't want to come home at 8:30 at night and see my wife for 20 minutes and then go to bed. Like, those were things I knew I didn't want. But now every decision we make is, what do we want? So that's the big mind shift lesson that I would love to take back and tell myself is like, gosh, don't settle for just not being miserable, right? Don't settle for just being happy. Like, go get what you really want out of your life, and make that happen instead of let's just stop the pain from happening. So,
and life is short, y'all. I mean, we don't have a lot of time on this earth. I mean, for all intents and purposes, if we live to average life expectancy, our life is halfway over.
Yeah, that's
like that's kind of scary.
Very morbid.
And well,
Very
it
morbid.
is. But I'm just saying, like, why not go for it? What do you really have to lose?
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the place where we had to get to. Just, we need to do this now. We don't have time to wait around.
Yeah, we don't have time to not be miserable. Like, I'm not going to accept that anymore out of life. Is, we tell our kids that all the time. Like, don't just be like, oh, well, at least I made it through the day without being miserable today. Like, that's not a way to live. Like, just go think bigger and be bigger and do bigger things. And like, it's kind of like you're already not doing it, right? Well, you're already not working for yourself. Well, go try to work for yourself. And if you fail, well, you were already not doing that. You really didn't fall very far. Like, just go and try something new and do something bigger and get and think about what you want. That's the best question you can ever ask yourself in any situation is, what do I want? If you're sitting there droning on, you're talking to somebody for 3 hours and you don't want to listen to them, well, go do something else. Like, what do you want to do? I want to go to the amusement park with my kid. Well, then just do that and see what happens. But don't be miserable. That's what I would say. Like, actually set goals and see what you want.
Sorry, I just got stung by something. And one thing I was going to say, just to add to that, is that make sure that your goals are not someone else's goals. So this is something that we've kind of fallen into the trap of this year. So, like, sorry, I've got like allergy drainage, stupid fall in Kentucky. But anyway, so what I was going to say is that earlier this year, we started looking at other people's businesses. And I think because we didn't do a good job of really
defining what we wanted.
defining our goals and our objectives, we sort of started looking outside of ourselves and saying, okay, well, person A is more successful than us and they do X, Y, and Z. So clearly that's what we need to do. And that was just wrong for us. Like, we made a lot of missteps this year as far as like hiring people. We tried to hire this big team, and on the end of it, at the end of the day, we didn't like it.
Yeah,
we
but we
did
did
not-
it because we were looking at the definition of success instead of writing our own definition.
Well, we were
of
looking at
success.
someone else's definition
Yes.
of success. And if that's something that you enjoy, then that's fine. But it's not something that we enjoyed.
I read this article on Facebook the other day. Someone shared it, and it said, strict parents have more successful children than other people. And immediately I thought, man, because we're not very strict parents, like, at all. And like, we're kind of loosey-goosey, let them, go do their own thing and let them fail and let them pick themselves up. And, we're just like laissez-faire a little bit on that. And I was like, man, I'm not successful. Then I read it, and the only definition of success in that article was if that kid went to college. Not even if they got their degree, not even if they were successful afterwards, but that was how that person was saying that, you're not a successful kid if you don't go to college, and you're not a successful parent if your kid doesn't go to college. I know a lot of millionaires who either one, never went to college, or two, are not doing anything related to their college degree. I'll
And
raise my hand right now.
How many
So,
people are listening to this right now who did go to college and are thinking, my life is not at all what I imagined it to be?
yes.
Like, it's not as
Like,
successful as I
wouldn't
wanted it to
define
be.
that as success. So yeah, just that's another thing we probably go back and like define your own success. You do what you want to do. Don't do what me and Jocelyn want to do. Do what Kat wants to do. Don't do what anybody else in the community wants to do, or Guru X, Y, and Z does. You define your success and then make that happen. If you can make that happen, your life is a success. So just define your own success.
And I think sometimes people get just so lost in that. So if I could go back 5 years and say, don't do this, I would say, don't try to build your business and your life the way someone else does.
Yeah. Good questions. These are amazing. This is so much easier than us trying to record this the other day. So thank you guys. All right, we got some more questions here.
Yep.
Kat's going to get the next one.
Our next question is from Crystal. Crystal said, what did you say yes to in the beginning that you would say no to now?
The thing that we said yes to that I would definitely go back and say not to do is don't say yes to starting multiple businesses. Once you find a nail and the hammer works, keep hammering that nail. We tried a lot of different things. I tried a lot of different things. We hit one, and I wish we had shut down everything and just went all in on that one thing until it worked, and then started other things later, because looking back, it just held us back. I know we could have probably been a year ahead of where we were if we had just went all in one thing, made it work, start those other. We kind of fell into the trap. Hey, there's two of us. We can do 2 or 3 different things and manage it. But, if we had one, like if I could go back when Elementary Librarian had the first launch, was successful, it made as much as one of our teaching monthly salaries, and the first launch with like a list of like 300 or 400 people. I wish that I had just dropped everything and just called every school in America to try to sell it to them. And then, and we just focused on one thing. So
I think going back, what I would have said no to are convenient hires. We have made a lot of mistakes in this regard. Like, maybe it's somebody who lives in our town. Maybe it was a friend of ours that we thought it would be nice to give them a job. But like, every time we've hired somebody for convenience, meaning, they lived in our town, or we thought they would be
they were cheap.
inexpensive.
That's the big one is, well, let's do what everybody else does and let's go cheap, right? Let's hire a VA. Let's hire someone overseas. There is a place for that. I'm not going to say there's not a place for that, but it was kind of like, and also too, like, not hiring, like, we just didn't even interview people. Sometimes we would just be like, hey, I found someone for $300 a month that will edit the podcast. Let's do that. Instead of saying like, well, are they really good people? Do they have really good things? Like, so
yeah, that was something that we've had to learn that the hard way. We have had to learn hiring people the very hard way.
Our first 2 VAs, literally couldn't type or barely speak English, and like it was just such a disaster that if we lost more money saving money hiring cheap people. So yeah, that's a good one too. So that's probably it, really. Just hammer the nail and invest in yourself. Don't go cheap.
Get the right person for the job.
Speaking of the right person for the job, Give Kath the microphone back because
Yay,
she's the right
Kath.
person
Yes.
for these quick Q&A session. Reading the questions.
Our next question is from Dan. Dan said, what tech would you have spent more time adopting in the beginning to grow faster? And what tech would you get rid of now that you shouldn't have used in the first place?
That's a good question.
Well, I can say that looking back, I would not have used Infusionsoft personally. I do not like it. I think it's a very bloated and difficult to use system. We have to hire people to come in and create things for us. We've had 4 or 5 different contractors work with our Infusionsoft system, which means that all of them have different naming conventions. All of them have different styles of using it. It's kind of a little bit messy now, and we're having to go back and like go through it all again. So for me, I would have used something simpler.
Like we were sold the complexity and how awesome that was, but like especially knowing what we know now, basically right now, guys, we get opt-ins and I email the list. Like that is the whole our business model, like broadcasting, right?
We have cut back on a lot.
Like, you know, like the complexity, anything that adds complexity is the wrong choice for your business, because online business really works like this, guys. Find someone that wants what you're selling. Get their email.
Ask them to buy it until they go away.
And then sell them the next thing that you sell. Like that's the whole thing. And if your system can do that, do it. So yeah, that's definitely the tech that we would have got rid of. I think if like what I would have done, probably spent more time on tech wise, was probably getting into just WordPress itself and not buying all of these lead pages and things like that. I wish I knew more about coding itself and being able to really manipulate my website so that I could make those things.
Or that we just knowing that we could hire somebody to do it. Like you can hire a contractor to do it in Infusionsoft, and it looks just as good as Lead Pages. And I mean, if you use Lead Pages, like don't feel like you have to go out and cancel it.
And Lead Pages.
We still use it. Like there is a place and a time for that, but I don't know.
You know what the real answer to this question is don't get into the tech stuff. Like if you can make a blog post and you can write an email, you are an online marketer, guys. That's all it is. It's really just, do I have a page where my course lives and can I charge money to get there?
Elementary Librarian's very first sales page, and I say that very loosely because it was not a sales page, was basically a white WordPress page with 3 green buttons on it. That was it. Like, and it had a little bit of text that said, which option do you want?
And that was a 7-figure business. So yeah, I think just getting into the tech, that's the problem. Here's the bots. Get into the bots. Why would you spend a year learning how to use bots when you could have spent a year emailing your
Here's
people?
The thing. If you have a 6-figure online business, then I'm fine with you exploring whatever kind of tech you want. Yeah. If you don't, you need to get there until you need to keep everything simple until you can get there.
I communicate all the time with a guy. I'm not going to tell you who he is. But email back and forth, talk to him. He is a multi-millionaire. His entire business is one page, not a website. It's one long scrolling page and an email list in Aweber. And he is a multi-millionaire. So anything complex I would have gotten rid of. And I wish I at every turn explored ways to make things simpler instead of buying a tool that looked awesome but made things more complex. So there you go.
And yeah, people get bogged down in that all the time because, you know, this person's using this tool and that person's using this tool. It doesn't really matter. Like all of that in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter. Are you solving a problem for people? Are you posting content regularly? Are you reaching out to your potential customers and asking them to buy? If you can answer yes to those 3 questions and people are buying, then I would say look into it. Otherwise, you need to concentrate on those things.
It's kind of like split testing. People get really caught up in split testing when they're not even doing anything. Hey, how do I split test? Hey, you don't even have a page on your website yet. So what are you exactly split testing, right? Like split testing matters when you're Amazon and you've got 30 million people going to a page. You need to know what color button works best. When you've got 30 people coming to a page, you need to figure out how you can talk to them. So get their email and send them a message. That's all you got to do, and you'll be fine. All right, looks like I think we got 5 more questions on the sheet that we're going to be able to get to today. But these are amazing questions, guys. I wish we could get to every single question. But hang around here. We're going to try and get to a few more here in the show. And anything we don't get, of course, we can jump into the forums and maybe follow up on those later. But I think we've got about 5 more we can get to. All right, Kat.
Okay, our next question is from Joe. Joe said, "What were the unexpected outcomes that 2013 S&J didn't even think would happen? What was the biggest worry or fear in 2013 that had absolutely zero impact on anything?"
The unexpected outcome for sure for me was that we would pay off our house in like 2 years and then buy a lake and a bigger house. And because this wasn't even a goal, wasn't even a dream. When we wrote the check for our house, we were like, like when we paid, that was kind of our goal. And when we saw it was going to happen, it was like, sweet. But I never could have anticipated the opportunity to live where we live. That's probably the big, actual manifestation in the real world thing that could have happened. I never actually flipped lifestyle is kind of something I never would have even envisioned.
No, we never set out to do this, really.
Yeah, like us sitting here doing this
with our Australian friend,
with our friend from Australia,
who we met in the Philippines.
Like you could never have gone back and told us that 5 years ago that would be happening. So I mean, just talking to you guys and helping other people, and it was for those of you who don't know the story, it was totally random that we started helping people coach. There's 100,000 life and business coaches out there that have never even had a business that are out there doing it, and that's their only goal in life. But like for us, it was just like sell digital products, make good money, not have to work for other people. And then Jocelyn helped one of her friends make money online, and she quit her job. And we were like, whoa, wait a minute. How did that work? How did we do that? How did that happen? Could we do it for somebody else? And then we did it for somebody else. And we were like, whoa, should we tell other people about this? Should we do that? And so, yeah, just even sitting here and this being our job now is kind of an unexpected outcome.
Yeah, I would say for me, it's just all of the travel that we've been able to do over the past 5 years. Like when we quit in 2013, it really never even crossed my mind that we would be able to go all these places. Like shortly after quitting our jobs, Shane talked me into going to this event in California, and we really could not afford it, y'all. I mean, we could not afford it. We did not have enough money to do this. I mean, we were able to pay for it, but if it didn't work out, like,
it was a risk.
I don't know what we were going to do.
It was a chance,
we really did not have enough money to do this, and we did it anyway. And just starting at California, we've been to California like 2 or 3 times now. We've been to Idaho.
Korea. We went to Boise. Korea.
We've been to Korea. We've been to the Philippines.
Disney World more times than I care to admit.
We're going to be sitting on the beach in Jamaica very, very soon. Actually, on the day of our quit-anniversary, the September 27th.
As you're listening to this, me, Jocelyn, Kat, her family, our family, we're going to be sitting on the beach, eating all-inclusive as much food as we can, and doing nothing, because that's what we're going to do. So it's going to be amazing. Yeah.
So, cool. Yeah, I would say that's probably just one of the unexpected benefits. I mean, I always thought we might travel some, but I was thinking like take my kids to Disney, because I had never been in my lifetime. And we've done that like 3 times now, I think.
Yeah. What about not tips, but what was the biggest fear that never came to pass and had zero impact on anything?
I think just worrying about, like, what if this doesn't work out? What if everything crashes and burns? Like, just those kind of fears.
Because that doesn't happen, right? Like,
well, I'm not going to say it doesn't happen.
No, but you know what I mean?
Disclaimer, if your business crashes and burns, we did not say it can't happen.
But I mean, you don't go from like 100 to 0 in 1 month. It happens because of your choices that you make over time, or things that impact. And, it doesn't just like the fear at the beginning is I'm going to quit my job in September. And then in October, I'm going to realize it was the worst mistake in the history of man. And I can never make another dime online, and I don't have a job now, and everyone's going to starve and die. Like, that's kind of where your mind goes, and that's not true. Like, you can work it out where you can make money and do something if you had to. I think not having health insurance was a big thing for me. Like, that was my number one thing I had to have squared away before we quit. And I was like, we're not going to have health insurance. My kids, something going to get sick, and I'm not going to be able to afford it. And that never came to pass.
We've never had to worry about that.
Yeah, because we realized that buying it yourself actually saves you money in the long term. Like, maybe not from the actual cost, but just because you pay $100 a month for your health insurance at work, that means your employer is probably holding back $1,500 that they're paying for your policy. So you could make that money, go find something cheaper, and it'd be okay. So I don't know. I don't think any of our fears came to pass, really. Has anything came? I don't think anything we were afraid of has even come close to happening.
Not that I can think of. Like, I don't know. I mean, I was probably the one who was more scared to do it than Shane was. And, I can say now that looking back on it, like, it was definitely a good decision. Like, I had no regrets.
All problems are solvable. Everything that's ever happened in our business, we usually could Google it and figure it out in 5 minutes how to get past it. So those fears just aren't going to happen. I don't think anything's happened, really, honestly. And that's not saying we're lucky or we're blessed. I'm just saying, like, I mean, I told you that terrorists hijacked our website for like a month. Like, that was pretty bad, but it didn't turn out to be the game-ending, your life is over destruction that we all kind of make it out to be in our brains. So, yeah, okay, good question.
Okay, our next question is from Janet. Janet said, how do you continue to make progress and smash through roadblocks in business? What tips do you have to stay consistent and keep growing step by step?
Keep doing things step by step, find those few things that we used to call them EDDs in football practice. It was everyday drills. If we could block and tackle and not fumble, we would have a chance to win every football game we played in. We knew that. So every day, no matter what, even when nothing else was working, we would block and we would tackle and we would practice not fumbling. So like once you get the three or four things that you do that help your business, just make sure you do those every day, every single day, and keep doing them. Even when things don't look like they're working, just keep driving forward on those 3 or 4 things, and you'll be okay. And also too, when you don't know what to do a webinar, because a webinar is a lead magnet and content and sales page and everything. And if you're ever confused in your business, start some ads, get some leads, and do a live call, try to sell something.
I would say if you're not going to go all in and quit your job right now, and for a lot of you, like that's maybe not even an option right now, but I would say it's absolutely essential to have some type of accountability partner. If you are a doer, you need a dreamer. If you're a dreamer, you need a doer. Like you must have somebody to push you out of your comfort zone and make sure that you're getting things done every single week. Like it's really easy to make excuses. Oh, well, I've had a busy week. I'm not going to email my list this week. Or, I had something happen and I'm not going to be able to do a blog post or whatever. But we just don't let each other make excuses. Like sometimes we fall into that trap. Like, oh, well, I don't feel like doing a video today because I'm having a bad hair day or some other first world problem.
Yeah, man, those get me, those bad hair days.
And like the other day, Shane, he got rear-ended in our new vehicle, which don't even get me started on that. But so the new vehicle got hit and, he came home and he's like, oh, it's the worst day ever. And I'm like, no, we have things we have to do. Yeah. Like, let's get it done. So you really need somebody to do that. If you don't have somebody, go to the community. We have an action plans area where you can post your action plans. People will come in and comment on them, give you encouragement along the way. Like there are ways to find someone. So remember what I always say, if it's important to you, you'll find a way. If it's not, you'll find an excuse.
I think too, another thing that people don't do wrong, they confuse goals with deadlines. Like never say, well, it's my goal to write 4 blog posts by next Saturday, because it's not really your goal. It's just something you said you were going to do by next Saturday. And when something comes up, you're going to put it off because that's not a goal. A goal is I'm going to make $1,000. I'm going to quit my job or I'm going to do something else. Like you have to have a deadline with a consequence. That's what goes on your calendar. And if you can't say, if I don't do that, then this will be bad. That's not a goal. That's not a deadline with a consequence. That's just kind of something you would like to do, right? And you're probably not going to have the motivation to do it. That's why we're so big on pre-selling things. If you tell 5 people that you're going to sell them something and they give you money for it, and you said it will be there by the 30th, I bet you get it done. If you have 100 people and you send an email out to your 100 people on your email list, and you said, hey, I've got a great blog post that'll be out by Friday on this, then you owe it to them now to get that done. And it's a deadline with consequence because people know about it.
And who was it in the Nashville group? So we have like a private Facebook group for people who are attending Nashville. She said that she had set a goal to get 40 members and she had like 34.
36. I think it was 36 at the last time I counted. So like she didn't want to show, her consequence was show up and tell me and Jocelyn or tell the people at the thing I didn't get there. So like she is relentlessly trying to get those last 4 or 5 members now to make sure that she hits her goal because she had a deadline with a consequence, right? So that would be a big thing for me, is just make sure you set something you have to get it done, not you want to get it done.
And you have to decide, like, you have to make the conscious decision. Yes, I am going to go for this. Not, I might go for it if it's convenient.
It's got to
or,
feel
like,
bad if you fail.
Like, you have to go for it. You have to share that with someone else, I feel like.
Okay. All right. Who's next? Let's see here.
Okay, our next question comes from Allison and Lauren and Kevin and Dan and Maribel and others.
So this is an important question that more than one person has asked, right?
Definitely. It says, did you worry about paying for insurance versus your employer paying for it? And what about retirement and all the tax stuff your job usually takes care of for you? Is it as scary as it sounds? And in brackets, Allison wrote, asking for a friend.
It's actually less scarier than working for someone else now that we're looking, because remember, this whole conversation is us 5 years later looking back. It's a whole lot less scarier than one person who decides if you have those things, period, for the next 30 years. Like, you're putting your quote unquote security in one company, your boss's hands for the next 30 years of your life. That's terrifying to me, that one person has that much power over our life. Like, if our insurance goes up, we can shop it around and we'll find something cheaper. If we want to save for retirement or invest in our business to make more money, we get to choose like how to do that. Okay. If I don't pay my taxes, that's my fault, right? Here's a scary thing. You think your employer is taking your tax money out. What if they're taking your tax money out and then they're not paying the taxes? Who do you think the government's going to find out somebody to pay those taxes? And that stuff happens all the time. Like, people, oh, well, I've got this big pile of money I'm supposed to pay to the government, but I've got lights to keep on in my company. Well, my employers will never know if I'm not paying this, and I'll catch it up later. Like, how do you know when you give that power to someone else that they're actually even doing it? So for me, it's a lot. It was scary in the beginning. It was very scary looking at it going, how are we going to do this? But now looking back, I would never trust anybody else to do that for us, because we can make better decisions about our insurance, about our retirement. And taxes is not hard, guys. 20% of your gross goes into the tax account and you don't touch it. That's the entire solution for the tax problem for the rest of your life. If you make $100, put 20 in a bank account and don't touch it, you can pay your taxes.
People tell themselves these stories that, oh, it's hard to get insurance, so I'm not going to bother trying. I'm just going to stay at my job. Or
my job told me it would be really hard if I lost my insurance to do that.
If I mess up my taxes, I might get audited. Okay, well, let me tell you something. If you're making, say, $20,000 a year online, you're probably not going to get audited. Keeping in mind that I'm not a tax professional.
Yeah.
But
there's a very low % chance of getting audited anyway. And here's the deal. If you're not trying to steal from people in real life, you don't go to jail. It's the same thing with the government. Like, you're allowed to make mistakes and then you just correct it. And if you put 20% of your gross in a bank account and you never touch it, you're probably going to be okay. It's probably going to be a few dollars either way anyway. So don't be afraid of the government.
Don't let that stand in your way. Yeah. Like, so many people let those two things stand in their way. Don't do it. Like,
insurance and taxes is seriously, like, insurance is walk into every agent in your town
or get an online quote.
Yes. I mean, it's so easy to find insurance.
That's what we did.
It's not cheap though. Like, you've got to pay for it, but you're going to go earn it. And if you're making 60 grand now and your online business makes 120, who cares if you pay a little more for insurance? You're better off.
Back to the accounting, keep a spreadsheet. That's what I did. When I first started Elementary Librarian, I made a spreadsheet of how much came in, how much money I spent. It was very simple, just one line, what I spent, what I spent it on. And that's all that the government asks you to do. If you're in America, they just want to know what you spent.
Did you make?
How much did you make? And did you pay the appropriate amount? It's not rocket science.
Yeah. So, and we're not trying to be facetious. I don't want to say that, because we didn't know that either. And we were afraid in the beginning too.
Not legal or tax professionals.
Not legal or tax professionals. But of all the things that terrify me in life, those are probably now on the very bottom of the barrel, because, take insurance, for example. Once you solve that problem once, it's solved, right? Like, I found good insurance. It's a little expensive, but I'll just go make more money and then I can afford it, because that's what, successful people do. They don't say, man, I can't afford health insurance. They say, how can I afford health insurance so that I can work for myself and make as much money as I want? And that's what you have to do. The government's scary. They're going to take everything out. No, they won't. If you just pay your taxes, they'll leave you alone forever. And if you just go keep making more money, you always keep making more money, even if you give them a part of it.
Eventually, you can hire somebody to handle it for you, which is what we do now, because, we have so many transactions now that it's a little bit difficult for us to keep up with it. So we now pay someone else to do it. But at the beginning, I mean, you have a couple of monthly expenses and maybe a few annual expenses, and that's it.
We've got members that have solved all these problems very creatively too. For example, one member that we know of, they didn't really do health insurance. They did like a catastrophic insurance policy that would handle anything like cancer, heart attacks, big, it was a super high deductible, but a pretty reasonable rate, right? But then there was a local doctor in their area that they pay like $200 a month for. And they that person like lets them come to as many doctor visits, all their kids stuff, everything.
And we actually have that here too in our town.
So like there's all kinds of creative ways the market handles insurance that your employer doesn't want you to know about, because that's why we get our jobs as benefits, and our job takes care of us. But really, that's one person making decisions for you for 30 years. And I just don't want to. All the teachers in Kentucky too, after we quit our job, they screwed them on their pension plan. They're all getting less. They screwed them on their medical care. They're all have higher deductibles now. And that was because a couple people in Frankfurt, the politicians, made a decision. Do you want that to be your life? Do you want your employer making those calls for you and making decisions on what your insurance covers because they picked it? Or do you want to go out and be in control and have that freedom to do it for yourself? Because you can. And it's not as scary as you think once you get out here and you do it. Okay? There was some no sugar in that answer. A little bit no sugar in that answer, I'm not going to lie.
Okay, our next question is from Treasure. Treasure said, how has investing in coaching helped you to get to where you are? And looking back, do you think it's necessary for success?
I would actually say it's not necessary for success, but it is necessary for speed, because every major jump that we have made is because we went and hired people that were ahead of us to help us figure out what we should do. I'm not hiring anyone to ask them what they did or what they think we should do. It's to help us work through our problems and our situation and figure out what we could do with their experience helping us. And guys, you are not going to fall into a mastermind where people are just going to help you for free. Like, if you want advice from people who have been there and done that, you've got to go invest in yourself and invest in them by buying their time to do that.
Well, and you might find people to talk to you for free
at your level, but you're not going to find someone that you can't offer anything for and them just hang out with you and be your mentor. Like, that's not going to happen. It's just,
that's an accountability partner thing.
Yeah.
Like, you can definitely find accountability partners for free, but if you really want to make good progress, you have to invest in some way. I think that way can be different for different people. For instance, I have not always loved it when we have hired like a coach and like worked with them on a one-on-one type of basis.
There's a difference in a coach and a consultant too that's important. Like, if you need a coach to get past a mindset issue, or you need a consultant who has been where you want to go, then you need to figure out first, like, what are you going to buy? Like, someone who can help. Like, we went and saw, the reason we went to California was to see someone for consulting. We didn't need the mindset thing. We didn't need the mental struggles or anything like that. We needed someone to say, should we do this with our pricing? And should we structure our launch this way? Because they had done it before, and that paid off 10x what we paid to go to California. So,
and I think it's all about just knowing what you need. Some of you guys, you might need a mindset coach. Like, some of you are struggling with this mindset stuff, and maybe you need to dive a little bit deeper.
But you're wasting your money hiring maybe a business coach who's trying to tell you how to set up a sales funnel, when really all you need is get over it, go buy your own insurance, right? Like,
and
something like that.
I'll tell you, this year I have hired a mindset coach a couple of times because I've realized that since we've been here, like, I'm having a couple of things that I'm having trouble getting past.
Yeah.
And so I hired someone on a short-term basis to help me to move past some of these mindset things. And it's really helped me. So for some people, yes, I think that coaching is a worthwhile investment. For other people, maybe you need to go to a live event and meet other people. Maybe you need to just ask the one or two questions, sort of like what we do. Like, usually we just need help with one or two little things and we're off to the races. Like, we get it done.
When we get stuck, we could probably figure it out. But it kind of comes down to this. Do I want to wait 6 months and do I want to try to figure it out? Or do I want to ask someone who's done this before to tell me what they did and pay them for that knowledge and experience that they have and do it in 6 days? Like, that's usually the difference in hiring coaching and not. Is you can make it. And if you don't have money to do it, you're fine. Go after it. But it's going to take you a year instead of a month. It's just going to happen because you don't have the roadmap or the plan to get past it. So,
and I just want to speak to actually meeting people in person. I can't emphasize enough how important that is, because, we could have written Pat Flynn an email and said, hey, we really love you and we want to ask you this question about our business. We could have done that. He might have responded, especially today, probably not. But we got on a plane, we flew to California, we shook his hand and said, "Hey man, we really love your work. Let me ask you this question about our business."
Yeah.
And we got an answer.
And then, like we went and got some consulting last year about some sales funnel stuff from Russell Brunson. It cost a lot of money. But like, could we have read books and figured it out? Yeah. But I also may not have been able to launch like 3 things that I launched last year. I may have only got one of them launched because it was a really high level conversation that I needed to have and hear from him to do that. So some people say, well, how much did you spend on your coaching? I didn't spend anything. I invested $25,000 that will probably come back to me over the next couple of years as $1 million. So coaching is not an expense. Consulting is not an expense. It is an investment in an answer that you need right now, because without it, it's going to take you a year to figure it out on your own.
And no matter what your problem is, no matter what you're trying to find out, like if you don't really define what you need, and you just buy somebody's coaching program because they made a lot of money
or because they're famous, like that's a big thing. Like going to see like Russell Brunson last year, it wasn't because Russell Brunson's famous. It was because I needed to launch something and I needed to know how to do the sales funnel from a guy who's made $100 million. Like I wanted to know that. So that's why we went to get that specific piece of information from him.
And I was just going to say, if you're looking for the easy button, it doesn't matter what it's in coaching, in memberships, in life. If you're looking for the easy button, no amount of coaching is going to help you.
If you go to a coach or a consultant and you think, man, I'm going to talk to them for an hour and we're going to figure this out. I'm going to come home and all my problems, I'll solve it in a week. Here's what a great coach and a consultant will give you. A lot of freaking work. If you don't have a lot of freaking work to do, the minute you're off that call or the minute you leave that live event, if you don't have like a month worth of like, I know what I'm going to be doing for the next 4 weeks. I'm going to be grinding on this for a couple hours every day. Like that's what a great coach will do to you. If you're getting off the call feeling good, that's not a good coach or a consultant. You need someone that's going to give you a next step and maybe the next 2 steps, and then basically say, if you need me, I'll be here again in a month and we can do this again for those.
And people think that they're easy buttons. People really do. Like, I mean, we can tell you, Kat was at an event with us in the Philippines. People came with like no work done, and they think, oh yeah, if I pay $6,000, $7,000, $8,000,
all rub off on
then yeah, this is going to be the easy button. It's going to be the magic wand, and it's all going to work out. No, you still have to do the work. Like I think sometimes people don't understand that. So I would just caution you, if you are looking for coaching, if you are looking for consulting, if you are looking for a membership, be ready to put in the work.
Yeah. If you talk to me and Jocelyn ever, you better be ready to do some serious, put some hours in for like 4 weeks after you get off the phone with us, because like it's all about the next steps, and the next steps never end, right? Like, when we came back from Nashville, when we came back from the Philippines, when we came back from California on all these things that we've done, like it was usually like grind 12 hours, make a plan, work for the next 6 months, bam, we're at the next level. So, just expect that and go get it. And also don't feel bad if you can't afford it right now. Yes, time or money. Money makes it go faster. You can put in the time and you can figure it out. Everybody listening is capable. Everybody can do this. And you probably digging and working and grinding a year from now can be better off than you are now. But coaching and consulting will help you get there a whole lot faster.
If you have the right offer and the right mindset.
That's right. All right. I think we've got time. We are way over. So I think we've got time for one more question. This has been an amazing conversation, guys. The questions have been lights out, and I hope everybody's gotten some massive value from our time traveling back 5 years to talk to ourselves 5 years ago. And this will be the last question for the time travelers today.
Okay, our last question is from Maribel, and she said, what is the biggest challenge you overcame before making money and gaining traction?
That's a really good question. What's the biggest? Probably for me, and Jocelyn's might be different, but for me, it was imposter syndrome. I think that was the thing. In the very beginning, I really had to get over myself and say, I don't have to be world-class, perfect at everything to help people, because my first niche was football coaching. And I, as a head coach, by any measure of success, was a failure. Like I had a losing record. We had some good things. Like we were on a really bad program. We won the first game in school history. We did a lot of things that were hidden. Like the first year I coached, like 9 out of 10 games, we gave up 60 points or more and got running clocked. The next year we only got running clocked twice. So like we made improvements, but nobody cares about improvements. They care about results, right? They care about wins and losses. And then even as a defensive coordinator, I went to a school that didn't have a lot of talent, and we were basically, 500, we won 5 games, 6 games, 8 games, nothing like state championship, world class. And I had a lot of imposter syndrome that I had to overcome. But that was because I was saying, how can I be the best and tell everybody what to do, the right thing that's going to perfect and save them? Not, hey, wait a minute, I'm here and 35% of the people in my field are behind me, and they need what I know, and they need my experience, and they need what I've learned. And I need to forget about those other people, and I need to help the people that are behind me in my journey. I'd been a coach for 10 years, right? There were people just starting their job their first year. They needed to know how to run a drill. They needed to know how to run practice. So getting over myself and my own lack of confidence in my own abilities or my career, that imposter syndrome of I'm not good enough to help anyone. That's not true. I'm not good enough to help some people in the industry. I am not experienced enough or have made enough money or have built a business in the proper way that they need my help. Like there are people who would ask me for my help and I'd be like, yo, I can't do that. But there's a lot of people that need me and need my expertise and need my wisdom. And that's where my focus has to be. So that was my biggest challenge in the beginning. It wasn't necessarily confidence. That's a different thing than, imposter syndrome. Like just getting over myself that there are people that need my help and going out there and making it happen.
I think mine is similar, but slightly different. I felt like I was a good enough librarian. I had enough people say to me, like, you have expertise in this, even though I'd only been doing it 4 years. So I don't think it was so much imposter syndrome for me as it was just a visibility thing, just like putting myself out there, writing about struggles that I was having, because at the time I just did blog posts and, letting people know, yes, I do have vulnerability. Like I'm not perfect, and putting that out there for other people to read. And what I realized by doing that is that people related to that so much. Like they would read and say, oh, somebody else is struggling with this. Thank goodness I found a place where I can really feel at home with that. And so I think that was the thing for me. Also, just the whole comfort of being like doing what we do, being on a podcast. Like that was a really big deal for me when we first started. Even though we weren't on video, we weren't really doing anything besides just like talking in a microphone and not even live. But at that time, that was just a really big thing for me to overcome, to be able to say, hey, I'm not perfect. I'm going to put myself out there anyway and see what happens. And just evolving into video now, we're doing more and more video and just being more comfortable with that. And knowing that in my head, in my mind, it's okay if I'm not perfect all the time.
So that's, those are two really common things. That's probably the thing that holds most people back from building their first brand. And we just want you to know that we dealt with it. And also too, going back to what Jocelyn said earlier, that comes back. Like every step you're putting yourself out there, every step you've got to ask yourself that question: who can I help? Who needs me today? What is there someone that I can go out and I can make their life better, take them to the next level? And there's going to be some people you can't, and you can't let that make you feel unconfident. You can't say, well, I can't help those people, therefore I won't help anyone. No, go sell to who you can sell to, help who you can help, and let that just evolve over time, and your business is going to grow. You're going to get traction, and you're going to make money too. Okay. All right, guys, a lot of amazing questions today. What a great Q&A that we just had. Hope that you guys got a lot out of our journey in the past 5 years, and we cannot wait to see where the next 5 years, the next year is going to take us. And I just want to challenge you to do that here at the end of this call today. Is where are you going to be in 5 years? You can't even probably imagine, but you can set goals and you can say, hey, this is what I want to accomplish. And if I just be consistent and I just go take action, and I just do all the things we talked about today, I'll probably be somewhere even better than that I can't even picture right now. So, go out there, take what we learned today, take action on it, get out there and do what we did 5 years ago this month. Flip your life. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.